Hello and welcome to cEDH Pleasure Brews. I'm Tim, and tonight we are continuing in our series of beginning cEDH Meta Busters. We're going to talk about Tivit. And before we get started, please check out our Discord and Patreon. Links are in the description below. And if you like our content, please hit that like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And the man, the myth, the legend is back. Brandon, say hi.
What up, baby?
I have managed to hold him hostage so I can talk at him for 15 minutes while he learns about another deck. Tivit is a 6/6 for an Esper, which is a black, blue, white, and then 3 colorless. And it's flying and has Ward 3. Ward 3, all that is if it's targeted by an opponent with a spell or ability, it will be countered unless they pay whatever the word cost is. So in this case, it's 3. And then Tivit also has a triggered ability of Council's Dilemma. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, that's very important. Starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. For each evidence vote, investigate, which makes a clue token. And then for each bribery vote, you make a treasure. Then, while voting, you may vote an additional time. So basically what that is when Tivit comes into play, or Tivit deals combat damage to somebody, you'll get to make a combination of 5 treasures or clue tokens. Okay? Now, you're probably sitting here thinking, why are we playing this Dirtily Sphinx in cEDH? Right? What does 5 treasures and or clues got to do with anything? Especially in Esper when we've got Zur and we've got Timna Malcolm and Timna Sakashima and just a billion other Esper commanders, right? Well, here's why. One card. One card. That card is called Time Sieve. Okay? So, since you make 5 artifacts, if your commander's in play, and this is in play, you sack those 5 artifacts you just generated. Because it doesn't matter what they vote, you just get the 5 artifacts. And you take an extra turn. And then you punch somebody in the face with a 6/6. And then you make another 5 artifacts. And you take another turn. And then you punch somebody in the face. And then you make 5 more artifacts. And you take another turn. Why are you looking like this?
I'm having a mental breakdown because of this commander.
Right. Yeah. So the list I'm highlighting here, the reason why I'm highlighting it is because this one took 5th place at the Playmax 3. I believe it went 3-1-1 and then lost in the top 16. Z-Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. But Z-Rob piloted this list very effectively. Granted, Z-Rob is a great player and has made it quite several times in the past 18 to 24 months to the finals pods of cEDH tournaments, online and offline. In order for you to actually go infinite, you need all 3 of your opponents present. Mm-hmm. So when you're doing the time sieve thing, you have to be careful to not put yourself in a situation where you can take out 1 opponent or 2 opponents and then pass the turn. Now, granted, you are drawing cards while you do this. So there's some things in the deck that kind of help with that. One is Strionic Resonator, which will copy Commander's ability. So that will allow you to make 10 treasures instead of 5. So now you're able to sandbag a bunch of treasures and clues. You've also got something like Smothering Tithe. And then you just got some solid enchantments, Rest in Peace, Remora, Study. You've got your normal kind of artifact suite. You get to pack Curse Totem. And you've also got Consult Oracle, obviously. So you don't always have to beat everybody with your Sphinx and take infinite turns, quote unquote. You can just ad nauseam and win like that, like an Esper Naz deck, or you can just consult Oracle. So you've got really good control magic. You've got you've got a decent, like a really good interaction suite. You've also got Hullbreaker Horror. The funny thing about Hullbreaker Horror is all of the artifacts down below cost like 1 or 0. So you can just kind of do the Hullbreaker Horror thing where you generate infinite mana. And then kind of use that to power out a Naz. Also, you can use it to kind of protect all your stuff, because not only does Hullbreaker Horror return a non-land permanent, it can also return spells to people's hands. So that's something to kind of be aware of. And then you've got like your usual like top 5 hate bears. In this case, it's actually top 2 hate bears as Dottie Voidwalker and Drannith. Notion Thief's also another really good hate bear. It's just kind of often overlooked. Mm-hmm. So I've been watching him play this in prep for the Playmax tournament. He's been doing pretty well with it. He plays in a pretty aggressive meta. And I think the deck, again, as for good stuff, like you can't really go wrong. But there's definitely like some flavors that are spicier than others and some flavors that are more effective. I would actually put this right now on the effective. So like the thing is, like, Zer's good because it tutors up Necromancy. Necromancy doesn't like auto win you the game when you play it. This gives you a 1-card win con with your commander that will lock out your board, especially you're drawing cards every time you hit somebody. You're going to draw into stuff to help, or tutors to help you do your thing. So that is something to kind of be like conscious about. You also have Consult Oracle. You also have Ad Nauseam. You have a reasonable curve. I think the biggest downside to this deck is pretty much any deck right now that's not running red is you don't have Dockside. So you're not as fast. The Time Sieve combo does require you to be conscientious of how many times can I hit each person before I start eliminating people, because then you go from 5 treasures to 4 treasures and then to 3, and then you start running out of gas. So you do need to be conscientious of that. In fact, there's another list that I'm going to link that has like a kind of a small little primer. This is by Collision. There's a couple other lists like on the DDB and stuff that are on I think one's on the Brewer's Corner and one got added to the main site. But just to kind of go over what to do. I'm not going to go into his list too much because it's a little spicy, but it was one that I had on hand that had a primer. But I will link it. This one's a little more of a high power list, honestly. So I think that about covers it. You got any questions?
No, I think that about covers it, honestly.
You were not expecting Time Sieve, were you?
No, whenever you said Time Sieve, I was like, huh? I haven't thought about that card in like years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Because I'm used to it with Thopter's Foundry. It's sort of like that I played when that was in Standard. Because Alara Block and Time Spiral Block were... Oh, no, they weren't in Standard together. They were in an old Extended. Which was just double at Standard, basically. Because the Sword of the Meat, then there was Lorwyn in between. But, yeah. So, okay. Well, if you don't have any questions, and I pretty much explained it for you, I get it. It's probably not like... I mean, it did well at the cEDH tournament, so obviously it's got some legs.
Right.
I would like to see this deck, maybe have a couple more finishes before, like I say, it's like the deck to beat, because it's Esper. It's not really going to be it, but I think it's a good, solid strategy. It's something that's a little bit fresh. It's got a nice it's got several nice compact win cons, and I think that playing Esper gives you a good balance of learning when to interact and when not, and then forcing you to do that because you're not going to be able to race. You know what I'm saying?
Also, another good thing about this deck is the fact that it has more than like 2 win cons, really, because that's something that I know Zur struggles with. Is that like if you can shut down his tutor, or if you can get rid of his necropotence, then he's kind of offline for a while.
Yeah.
And whereas this, it's like, yeah, you can counter my win con, but next turn I'm probably going to be able to do another win con,
Right.
or a different one after that. So
Yeah.
and that resiliency is really, really important in decks, in my opinion. So the fact that it can do that automatically makes it a better deck than most other decks.
Well, and technically, Tivit has card advantage built into it. Because clues, you just pay 2 and then sack it and draw a card. Now, granted, like, it's not the best, but, I mean, that's still technically cheaper than what it costs to draw a card with Thrasios.
That's true.
And we're using that thing all day long. So,
and
I'm not saying it's better than Thrasios. I'm not saying it's better than Thrasios. I'm just saying, like, it has card advantage built in. And then it does give you access to a 1-card win con, in addition to just all the normal Esper things. So, I just want to reiterate, because I've gotten a couple of people mention it. You're going to see Oracle as a win con in a lot of these decks. It's just what cEDH is. And there are decks out there, and I am sprinkling them in, but I would be doing a disservice if I did not predominantly show like more. Like I'm trying to that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, because it's got something besides just Oracle. But it's still relevant and still valid and still like will do the thing. So
I mean, what a lot of people who are getting into it fail to realize, getting into cEDH, fail to realize, is that before it was Thoracle, it was Labman.
Right, or Flash Hulk.
Yeah, or Flash Hulk. And so the fact that one of those win cons is immediately dead, and then something that's better than Oracle came out, or better than Labman came out,
right?
It's going to be used. And it gets boring sometimes, but if that's the case, then I don't mean to be rude, but play High Power, because High Power doesn't have a bunch of Thoracle going on, or pay Glodo or something like that.
I mean, High Power does. They just tend to have like less efficient ways to get to it. I mean, not everybody, but honestly, here's the thing though. Like, just for a quick little PSA, what makes cEDH great for me isn't how I win the game. It is navigating my opponent's interaction, getting there. It's the dynamic, interactive gameplay. Sure, like if all my opponents did were tap out for 3 or 5 turns, and then I just played Consult Oracle and won, and nobody had anything or did nothing, like that would get old real fast. But the fact that my opponents are trying to op agent me when I'm trying to tutor, or they're trying to swan song my Consult, or they're playing Draenus, so I can't play my command. Like, they're interacting with me. That's why I play cEDH.
The battle is the fun of it, in my opinion. That's why specifically stack interaction is my favorite piece. Because I love when the stack is 10 spells long and you're like, fuck, this is going to be a nightmare. That's my favorite part of it.
And making those optimal plays to get to that Consult Oracle. Like, sure, the Consult Oracle itself is redundant, but the fact that the navigating to it is what is the fun for me, and I think for a lot of players. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. Like, whereas like with mid power, like, if I have a fast deck, I could just always get under everybody, and people tend to just there tends to be a lot of non-games, and that's not what I want to sign up for. Right. So with that in mind, I think we will close for the night. Thank you again for joining me. I'm glad I got you with the time save. That was just the first one I
wasn't prepared for it.
So again, if you have any requests for decks to do in the future, please leave them in the description below. And please hit that like, share, subscribe. Thanks again. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.